Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, in the weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because we do have a bonus pair in store. I'll quickly go through my trade of the week, take a look at the DXY, see what's going on with the dollar, and then we'll progress into the analysis. If you do want to skip ahead, if you don't want to, you don't have to, but if you do want to skip ahead, the timestamps are located below for specific analysis for specific pairs. But I did have a trade this week. In fact, I was holding EuroCHF shorts from last week. I did exit that original trade because price did break back above my level of resistance. So I was originally short this one over here on this candle. Was in a bit of profit, but then price did turn against me. Then we did see a close back above that level of resistance. So I exited that trade, but I was staying alert because at the end of the day, this is the swing high I'm looking for price to respect. So my trade idea is still technically valid as long as that high is not broken. And so far the market hasn't broken through that high, got back below the level, confident close on the 4-hour chart, re-enter the position, stop loss in the same place pretty much. And so far price is doing a pretty good job at holding the level so far. Tested it again just before NFP, and looks like we've seen a bit of momentum and just into a little bit of profit at the moment, but still looking for a big swing to the downside. The idea with the trade is I'm still looking for the continuation of this bearish structure. So as long as we don't break structure, I'm expecting the structure to continue. Another lower high forming and another drop back into the lows there. I'll look to go break even and start managing the trade whilst we start taking out the lows there. But you can see on the daily chart as well, lovely wicks to the upside, numerous wicks into this area. So we've been struggling a lot, and nice to see the lower time frame starting to show momentum as well. So looking for a drop there in EuroCHF. Overall, the market structure is bearish on numerous time frames, and I do have the higher time frames in my favor. So let's see if we can get a swing to the downside next week. That's the only position I have on at the moment. In terms of the dollar, same old with this one, still very bullish. We had a very bullish week again. Really strong move to the upside. NFP, nice ending to the week as well. Strong push to the upside, creating new highs. And it really is the same story, so on and so forth. Ever since we had that breakout, I'm expecting dollar to keep up with this momentum, keep giving us those higher highs and higher lows, all the way back to 113. So my plan, especially as a swing trade, is just find those pullbacks. Of course, within reason, that fit the plan, not just buy everything. But find those pullbacks, find those good opportunities in favor of the longs, and try and see if I can swing it as much as possible. Probably not all the way back to the high there. It's a bit unrealistic, but I'll be trading stops. We'll see how far we can take them. But of course, looking to focus on Euro USD, Pound USD shorts. Dollar is like a good indication of what those currency pairs will do. But at the moment, still looking very strong. So for next week, we might see momentum continue. In that case, a retest that high looks good. Or if we do start to pull back a little bit from here, can be looking at this 108,500 area for more upside. But as long as we respect structure for dollar, I do expect to see price keep pushing up. So looking at euro, pretty much the inverse of that. There's two levels I'm interested in. Market still seeing lower lows and lower highs, keeping me bearish here. On the 4-hour chart, we still do have that major swing high. And if I whip out the fib from that high to the low, still got some nice confluence into this level here, which is an area I mentioned last week. Didn't quite see that happen. Unfortunately, missed it by a few pips before the market had a bit of a sell-off, but it's still valid. If price was to have a bigger pullback this week, which potentially could happen, that is definitely an area which I do want to stay alert with. It meets my criteria. It's a healthy pullback into a nice zone. Also retesting 0.618 and should give us a pretty healthy swing back to the lows, healthy risk reward should that trade play out. But also, we are starting to form some more minor lower lows and lower highs in this area here as well. And I've noticed a very strong level here in the 4-hour chart, which could act as resistance again, see another lower high, and of course, another continuation. In fact, if the market starts off pretty bearish and we do see a bit of a drop, that's probably a more realistic trade opportunity rather than the bigger pullback. And this would look equally as good if that's the situation, that's the scenario. Shorts in that area, really, really strong support level. If we do see some strong rejection, there's a good chance it will hold to resistance, give us the next lower high in this bearish sequence. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and see another drop. But again, similar to DXY on the higher time frames, Euro USD has broken out of some really big structure here, major support taken out. So if that's the case, this is the next major low I'm looking for price to head to. As a result, I expect a lot more downside in the near future for Euro USD. So yeah, keep an eye on those shorts. 1.034 if we have a deeper pullback, 1.045. But expecting new lows next week for Euro USD. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So very bullish on this one. Still do have my area of interest here at 154. If I do whip out the fib from the low to the high, you can see it lines up very well from 0.5 of the fib. So I do have some healthy confidence in this area, and I'm waiting to see if price can have that retracement to go back and retest that level so I can find my entries. You can see the prior high, which price has since broken, and it does look like price is getting ready for a big pullback. Very ascending in this structure typically means that the market is tiring and potentially getting ready for that bigger pullback, and that's where my confidence lies. And if all goes well, we can swing it back to that high there and potentially back to the weekly, even monthly swing high there at 161,700. So very bullish on dollar yen as well. Of course, another USD pair, although it looks like yen could be gaining some strength as well. So it'll be interesting to see which one will be stronger, but the technicals still show me that dollar yen is trending to the upside well, still seeing conviction in our bullish moves. Therefore, it's still a market which I'm looking to buy until proven otherwise, and hopefully you can get some longs down at these areas back to the high and so on and so forth. So keep an eye on 153,900, we'll call it, for some entries, looking to swing it back to highs and higher. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD I'm still very bullish on. This one is having a lot of consolidation at this moment in time, but despite that, I do expect the bigger move to be to the upside eventually. Whether we have a sharp breakout, the market just continues to fly, or we go for a deeper pullback, put in that next higher low in this sequence here. You can see on the left, I've marked out these higher lows, 1, 2, 3. Looking for that next one. Might have already been printed with this low here potentially, so that's why I said potentially price might be already on its way up. But should we have a deeper pullback, we still do have this high here to retest, coming back into some healthy fib levels, 0.618 in particular, testing that area there as well. So that's really where my confidence does lie here for dollar CAD to take it back to highs and then potentially back to 1.46, which is back in that weekly level. You can see we had a massive breakout of this resistance on the weekly chart, and the next big level does lie at this area, 1.46, massive rejection once, twice over there, and at least looking for price to come back and test it for a third time. So very bullish for dollar CAD until we get back to those levels, and my confidence does lie in this area. So I'm just hoping to see a bigger pullback. Should we see a break of the high, there might be some nice longs on the lower time frames like the hourly chart, looking for the break and retest of the high. So keep an eye out for that. That could be an opportunity to look out should we not get the deeper pullback. But this is definitely my area of preference. So waiting for a push to 1.415. If not, keep an eye on the break and retest of that range. That's probably your best opportunity. But yeah, very bullish on dollar CAD and still looking for a push into 1.46. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound have been bullish for this one, and it does look like things are shifting. Very strong move to the upside this week, breaking the highs. And again, as we've been talking about, where are we trading? We're trading such a big level of monthly support. So we've been looking for buys. It's taking its time, but it does look like things are shifting. As you can see, massive reactions in this area, and we're back there again. Possibly you might see another big reaction. But even if we don't see that, even if we just say 2 or 3 bullish monthly candles here, that is still a pretty big move in itself. When you scale down to lower time frames, you can still refine your risk and take advantage of some really big moves here. So Euro Pound, I am looking for a bounce until proven otherwise. So if we scale back to the 4-hour chart, and if we just clean things up, we don't need to have that level there. We know it's there on the monthly chart. It does look like things are shifting. Price is taking out some highs here on the left, as we can see. We've of course taken out this high as well, just after we put in that double bottom, 1, 2. A lot of consolidation, but finally broke to the upside, taking out some highs on the left and doing it with a lot of momentum as well, which is the key thing. Sometimes we see very corrective break of structures, and those are not really attractive to follow. You want to see strong breaks, which do imply that there's a lot of momentum in the market. So if you do see pullbacks of those, there's a good chance price could look to follow that move and see a continuation. And that's exactly what we're seeing here for Euro Pound. So looking for a pullback to retest that same area. Got some healthy confidence in that level as well. Whip out the fib, we line up very well. in between the 0.5 and 0.618. Of course, you can see the market's putting these higher lows connected with the trend line, and of course, got a lovely level of resistance, 1, 2, 3 there as well. Really strong resistance, strong break, haven't yet come back to retest that same area as support. So altogether, really just looking for that next higher low there for euro pound to take it back into the highs and then potentially further, but it's not necessary. Yes, we're testing a big monthly level where we could fly, but euro pound's a very choppy pair. It's not the best market to try and hold into positions and take them too far. Of course, trail stops and have your management techniques, but in terms of the behavior and characteristics of euro pound, it's a very kind of choppy back and forth pair. So you do want to take your profit at suitable areas because there's a good chance price is going to turn around. But for now, looking really good here, 0.833, looking really good. That's where my focus is for some buys, as long as we can respect that structure. Looking for entries back into 0.839 for next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So very bearish this weekend. We have been bearish on Aussie dollar, bullish on USD. So all these USD majors we've been expecting to fall against the dollar, and Aussie dollar has been doing that very, very well, taking out some major lows here as well. So I do expect to see a bigger pullback now because these are some major lows back of 2022 when we had that really big drop. And we've gone and taken that out finally. And I do expect lower prices really. I'm looking for 2020 lows after the big drop in COVID back to 0.58. So I do think Aussie dollar longer term's got a lot more juice in the tank to the downside. However, after we do take out such major lows, and including this low here as well, you do expect to see a bit of a pullback at some point. The market's pretty stretched. We've seen a number of bearish candles together, only one bullish candle arguably in the past like 15 bearish candles. So the market is definitely stretched here on the higher time frames. So I do think a bigger pullback can happen at some point, whether it's next week or the week after that, I don't know, but we'll be looking at a bigger pullback. And the area I do want to see price pullback towards is this level here for a retest. We've broken through that level very well. Haven't really yet seen a retest of that same area. So I would be looking at a pullback into that zone, looking for my entries in that area, and looking to see if I can take some shorts and swing it back to wherever the current low is. At the moment it's there, might be a little bit further once we do see that pullback. I'm looking for the fib from this last major high there for that pullback. Lines up pretty well for 0.618 in that zone, but if we keep falling, it might even line up with the 0.786, but it's a healthy pullback, which is the main point of looking at the fib, looking for healthy pullbacks, and that definitely is one. So hopefully we can come back, retest that zone just below 0.64, and then short it back down to lows. But over the next couple of weeks, I do think we can see a bit of a pullback at some point there for Aussie dollar. So if you are shorting on the lower time frames, try not to be too aggressive in terms of targets. Yes, there's a lot of momentum, but at some point we probably will snap to the upside. So take that information and use it how you want to. But yeah, Aussie dollar still very bearish, looking at a bigger pullback and expecting more downside next week. Okay, so over to New Zealand CAD. So very bearish on this one. I was looking for some pullbacks this week for New Zealand CAD, but unfortunately the market was too bearish. We just kept falling. I was looking for a pullback into this area for another lower high. You can see if we look to the left, really nice market structure here. High, drop, another high, another drop. So again, was looking for that pattern to continue, but the market was far too bearish. Had a bit of a pullback at the start of the week, but just kept falling very aggressively. And we're almost at a major level of support, which we've been looking for price to get to. We're almost there, and could just see price spill over very early next week. But hopefully we do see a bit of a pullback. We've taken out some major lows, as you can see. Big low there, big push, big low there, big push as well. We've taken out lows there too. So I do think a bigger pullback is due there for New Zealand CAD, which could then give us the opportunity to jump into some shorts and ride the momentum to the downside. Again, not looking for anything too crazy. That area is still something I do want to short from, but I'm also looking at this low here, price support, which of course will be turn resistance and still give us a pretty healthy pullback into the 0.5, which is this area here, again for the same continuation. So still looking for these lower highs for New Zealand CAD. Still very bearish on this one. From a top-down perspective, I do think we can see a lot more downside. I know we do have a big level of support underneath us, but I do think price is likely going to break through that eventually and see a lot lower prices as well. Same with Aussie CAD, which is a very similar pair to this one. but that's a very awkward arrow drawing there. Let me do that again, much better. And over there as well. So yeah, very bearish on New Zealand CAD. Keep an eye on the retests of 0.814, 815 we'll call it. I think that's a realistic pullback we could see, and opportunity we could see next week. If we were to have a very bullish New Zealand CAD and much bigger pullback, then this zone still looks very, very good for the shorts, and even better because the risk reward will be better. But nonetheless, still a very bearish market and waiting for that pullback to happen. So looking for pullbacks for New Zealand CAD, very bearish. Keep an eye on those two areas, 0.815, 0.82, and expecting new lows next week past 0.796 for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so next up we've got pound NZD. So pound NZD, I'm looking for a much bigger pullback. If we look at the higher time frames here, the market structure is still very bullish, but still putting in numerous higher lows, as we can see. So the idea is that we're looking for the next one. We've taken out some major highs over there, had a big pullback, taken out some more major highs, had another big pullback. Well, having the beginning of another major pullback. So I'm looking for a push back into, if I get the fib out, back into this region here with the 0.618, which is where we had this consolidation just before that big push to the upside. So I'm looking for a much bigger pullback now for pound NZD. Still very bullish because we're still putting in the higher highs and higher lows. But I do want to see price get to at least 2.155 before getting into some longs. Find some entries in that area, stops below somewhere, and hopefully swing it back to the highs and continue the trend. There might be some short-term sells you could look at. Say price continues to break the lows to the downside, including this low on the left. You can start to look for some pullbacks in this area to find the next lower high and keep shorting. This is probably more of an entry on the hourly chart or setup on the hourly chart to look at. But in terms of a swing opportunity, if you're looking for the bigger move, it's still likely to the upside if the trend's going to continue. And this is a very smart area to look to find some long. So keep an eye on 2.155. Shorts could look good as the week progresses if we do have that bigger pullback. So keep an eye out for that. But my interest does lie at this area. And if you do get a good rejection, could look to swing it all the way back to the highs back at 2.24. So that'll be the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so next up we've got CAD JPY. So again with this one, I am still long-term bearish, looking for a big swing back to these lows. However, I have been waiting for a push back to the high before looking too short. At this moment in time, it looks like price is starting to struggle, still very corrective on the way up, which gives me confidence that the shorts will eventually come into play, because if price was steaming to the upside and seeing a lot of momentum, then maybe we were reversing. But the fact is price is still very corrective, which means there's a good chance we're eventually going to topple out and see a push to the downside, which looks like pound yen is already doing. We'll get to that shortly. But CAD yen is looking like it is getting ready to break the downside. We did see a nice break of the high last week, but didn't really use that as support. And we do have that trend line, which looks like price is trying to take out. So if we do see a strong break to the downside, taking out these lows here, then I will no longer be looking for the push back to the highs there with CAD yen, and I'll start to be looking for some lower highs and lower lows in these areas for some shorts back into the low here on the left, and so on and so forth. So that is hypothetically what we'll be looking at. But at the moment, the market structure is still bullish, still holding on to highs and lows, and hasn't broken the trend line yet. So this is still the area which I'll be looking to short from. But the moment we do start to break structure, meaning this 108.600 level doesn't hold anymore, I will start looking for some lower highs in these areas for some shorts. Again, the exact kind of entry and location does depend on how big of a break we see. Whether it's a big break, might look for the retest of this area, or if it's more of a shallow one, might be looking at a bigger pullback. So that will develop as the week continues, and during the streams we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, this is still a good area. So if the structure does resume bullish, definitely keep an eye on 111.5 for some shorts. This is where I was shorting from a few weeks ago. If price gets there again, I'll be looking to take pretty much the same trade. And yeah, back to 106 will be the goal. So long-term bearish on CAD yen if we break the lows. Might see some temporary buys if we do suddenly respect structure again. But these sells are the main move I'm looking for. So that is the plan next week for CAD yen. Okay, so on to pound USD. So very bearish on this one. Another USD pair, very bullish on dollar. And as you can see, we're seeing that really price into pound USD as we keep falling. But pound has been very weak in fairness. So it's not just been dollar strength. Pound was very, very weak this week here. And we're taking out some major lows here as well at 1.229. So the next big level for pound USD is definitely this level here at 1.205, and that's where potentially at this rate we could be ending up next week. But first, I do want to see some pullbacks to keep shorting and riding this momentum. I was speaking about the retest of this support level. Unfortunately, price did break above it, then break back below, so it wasn't a perfect break and retest, but it still does look like a nice area to short from. Equally, this low here does as well at 1.235. So hopefully we can start the week a little bit bullish. Do see some pullbacks there just after that momentum from NFP, and hopefully you can come back and retest 1.235, or should we have a very bullish week, maybe we do push back into 1.25, sorry, and get the shorts from that level. But the idea is to look to keep up with these lower highs on pound USD, as we can see, and my job is to find the next one as long as we don't take out this high here. If we break out that high, maybe we might see a bigger move to the upside for pound USD, but as long as that high maintains, really, I stay with that bearish bias. As long as the DXY maintains the higher lows and higher highs and that bullish structure, I maintain that bearish bias with pound USD as well. So these are the opportunities I'm looking at. Swings back down to 1.205 is the plan. So yeah, hopefully you can find some pullbacks next week and some more shorting opportunities. Okay, so over to pound CAD, which was very bearish this week. A lot of downside, lovely bearish structure, had a nice retest of that area, lovely continuation as well. So the market is printing some lovely lower lows and lower highs, and it does look like that level on the daily chart is really holding as resistance very well. Price has tried to break through on 3 separate occasions, 1, 2, 3, probably count 4 over there as well, and it has held very well, and it looks like this trend might have met its match, and we could be looking at a bigger push to the downside. This is still the last low which gave us the high, so in terms of market structure, we need to take out that low first before I truly say structure is broken and we're looking at a bigger move to the downside. Yes, we're failing at highs very well, but we could still easily bounce here and try and continue things. So watch out for 1.75, that low there. We could definitely turn around if price does have a good rejection. But in terms of the current momentum of the past few days, it's definitely bearish. So I do like the lower lows and lower highs at the moment, similar to pound USD. Do you want to see a bit of a pullback first? We do have this low here, which price has broken through, yet to have a retest. Would be nice to see a pullback into that same zone. If I whip out the fib, you can see we've got that 0.5, 0.618 in that area. So basically just looking for the 4th lower high in the sequence. 1, 2, 3, looking for number 4. Another push back into the lows where potentially we might bounce and turn around. Or maybe we do break structure and then we can speak about a bigger pullback and potentially a bigger move back down. And that will be a story for next week potentially. So we'll talk more about that once we're at those prices, but for now still looking very bearish. First need to pull back to find some entries and then at least swing it back down into the low here. But because of momentum and how things are looking, pound pair wise, it does look like pound weakness might be here to stay for a little bit. So push to that low there looks pretty likely next week. So yeah, hopefully find some pullbacks. Keep an eye on 1.78 and hopefully you can find some shorts next week. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen, I've been bullish on this one, looking for a push back to the high, then I will look to short. Overall, I'm looking for a big bearish leg, and it looks like we're seeing signs of that happening. I've talked a lot about this massive impulse on the left, and I'm looking at this bullish structure on the daily chart as purely just a correction of that bearish leg for a big continuation. So I was looking for price to get right back at the high there first, double top that, maybe even spike through, and then look for entries there for the sell. But looks like, unfortunately, we might just be looking to form a lower high just below that before we do get that big sell to the downside. So now I have to adapt to what market structure is giving me. The fact that we are breaking through these lows, forming equal highs there, another lower high there as well, means that I'm no longer going to be expecting a push back to 199.5, which is the high there. Now I'm going to be looking for a pullback of this bearish leg to find a lower high around this area, got some nice confluence between the 0.5 and 0.618, and then from there hopefully we can short it back into the low and then back into the swing low here at 189. And if my higher time frame bias serves me correctly or serves me well, there could be a massive swing on our hands here back to 182 and potentially even further than that. So very bearish here with pound yen, but I need to see a pullback. Like I said, that's my area of confluence. I'll be waiting patiently for pullbacks into that area, and hopefully you can find some entries. But that double top I've been speaking about doesn't look likely anymore. Looks like we are already shifting. We've failed to make the high there on 3 occasions, 1, 2, 3, and now we've broken lows, which is the key indication that, okay, structure shifting, we'll like to keep falling. So let's look for a pullback next week. Pound's being very, very bearish at the moment, so there's a good chance we'll probably see some more downside. Just hopefully a pullback does print first, then we can take it back into this low at 189 and then eventually 183. But that is the plan for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold's still not a fan of the price action, at least in the lower time frames. On the higher time frames, like the daily, weekly, especially, the trend is very much up. So I'm still very bullish on gold, looking for opportunities in that direction. Expecting price to eventually hit that high there, all-time high at 27.89, and probably going to see some new highs pretty soon. So very bullish on gold longer term, and it looks like we're picking up momentum at the moment. But you can see we're still confined to this range. Equal highs over there, equal lows here, and looks like those are just fake outs, and price is now holding that support pretty well. And looks like we're pushing back into the high of the range, where equally we might see another high form, another push back down again. So until we start to break out this range, I'm going to be very neutral on gold on the lower time frames, waiting for price to break out. And let's say if we do break the high of the range here, then things do get interesting, especially if it's a break with some decent momentum, because retest will look good and you've got a nice range to play from the breakout here back to that high, and potentially a lot higher as well. If we do respect it, there could be some nice shorts to take price back down again. So from a bearish standpoint, I think it's still a nice opportunity to look at if you're just looking to play the range high and low. I'm still bullish, so I'm going to be looking for opportunities to the upside in general. As I've been saying, I'll be looking for a push back to the low here. Unfortunately, just haven't seen that happen. And the next best opportunity for buys is probably just the break and retest of the high there, and looking to ride it back into the all-time high. So that's the main focus now with gold, because the bigger pullback I'm looking for probably isn't going to happen, or at least not for a long time, because we need to reject that area, completely sell off, break support. So that's going to take a while. So that this is probably the next best bullish opportunity. Should we not break out, then like I said, just like we did on those 2 separate occasions, could see price top out here again and see another swing back to the low end of the range. So either which way, there's an opportunity here. I'm leaning towards the bullish side of things, because my higher time frame bias is very bullish on gold. I do expect us to get back to the all-time high. So I do want to see a breakout of this 27.15. Look for the retest, and hopefully you can ride it back to the highs. But from a bearish note, if we do respect it well, see some really good rejections, I do think that is a nice place to short as well. So keep an eye on both opportunities there. But that's going to be the main focus for gold. But overall, still very bullish and looking for buys. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, I am still bullish on this one, since we're still holding on to support. I've been talking about this support for at least a couple of weeks now, seeing numerous rejections of this area, and it's held pretty well. And the market is still holding that level as we speak. So as long as we maintain that level, I do think we can see a push to the upside. If price does break through, then I will shift my bias to bearish, at least from the short, medium term perspective, because the next big level I have for Bitcoin is all the way back down at 74k. So unless price breaks out and creates a new area of support and has a move to the upside, which is a possibility, but in terms of market structure, this is the only other significant level I can see for Bitcoin. Yeah, so if we do break through 93k, there could be a big move all the way back down to 74, 73k. So if it does break, I do think shorts will look good. The fact is the market is still very corrective as well, which might be a sign that we are getting ready for a move down. And if we do see that happen next week, I do think shorts, lower lows and lower highs on the way down could be the opportunity to look for. And then we can start speaking about some longs again for potentially a big move back up. But at the moment, if you're looking to get involved with Bitcoin, I still think the longs look good. So if you are looking for entries, I think that's still a great area, still seeing some healthy rejection on the 4-hour chart. So as long as price keeps bouncing at this level, entries there, stop loss below the low, give yourself some wiggle room, and it gives you nice opportunity, a decent risk reward back to the high. And like I said, if price should break out, then we can look to turn the bias into a bearish one and start looking for some lower highs back down again. But for now, these are still the areas where longs look good, and my analysis hasn't really changed for the past couple of weeks because Bitcoin's just been moving sideways. But yeah, we'll just keep an update to see what price does. If things do change, I'll let you guys know. But for now, this is still very much the plan. If we do get that bigger pullback into 74k, then again, that's where we'll start to look for buys again. And of course, we've got the all-time highs at that area there. So that is the plan going into next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so over to US 30. So lovely bullish structure here on the left, low, high, higher low, higher high, but we did get a break of structure of that same low a while ago. So we're looking at more downside. However, we haven't seen much progression. The market's been very, very flat, very choppy, but looks like after this week, after NFP, we're seeing some momentum come back into the market, and it looks like we are breaking to the downside. Now, it's not the most confident break in the world. We could very much close back inside that range, and if that's the case, I'll stay away from US 30. But if we do see this momentum continue, sustain, even break through some more lows here on the left, that would be great as well. Continue that momentum. I would be expecting a pullback, another lower high to form, and then some more downside. So I'll definitely keep an eye on US 30 for that continuation. I want to see more evidence of a breakout happening. We've got the signs, first signs of it happening, but I want to see a lot more downside before looking for pullbacks. And then the plan will just be looking for the low of the range, a retest of the low of the range, looking for that next lower high. We've got some highs here on the lower time frames, 1, 2. Let's see if we can find that third one in that sequence there, and look for another drop, back into wherever that low forms, and probably a lot further than that as well. So US 30 expecting more downside, but first want to see a bit more commitment, a bit more momentum on that breakout before I will consider shorting. But then yeah, once we get that, looking for the retest of the low and expecting another drop there. So that will be the plan for US 30 next week. And that does take us to the end of the analysis, guys. If you have found it useful, please be sure to smash the like button. Comment down below any pairs you're looking to trade next week. I'm interested to find out. And of course, if you are enjoying the content, make sure you subscribe, make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. And it does really help out the channel, guys. So I really do appreciate it. People liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, it does really help out. But guys, do have a great Saturday, do have a great weekend. As always, I'll be streaming next week, so hopefully I can see you guys there. But nonetheless, guys, have a good one, and I'll catch you all in the new week.